It's a Budget Committee meeting for Monday, October 5th, 2015 to order. If the clerk will please call the roll.
Calling the roll, Mr. Greenspan.
Here.
Mr. Miller. Here. Mr. Jones. Mr. Jones is absent. Mr. Hairston.
Here.
Mr. Gallagher.
Here.
Mr. Schron. Mr. Schron is absent. Ms. Brown. Here. We have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Is there any public comment related to the agenda?
No, Mr. Chair, no one has signed in.
Okay, before us are the meeting minutes from September 28th, 2015. If there are any amendments, I'd entertain a motion. Otherwise, I will make a motion to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor of approving the minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, those minutes are approved. Before us, we have one matter referred to committee. If the clerk will please read the item.
Resolution 2015-0183, authorizing the use of a portion of the proceeds of the Cuyahoga County Sales Tax Revenue Bonds Series 2014 County Facilities Improvement in an aggregate principal amount not to exceed $11 million for the purpose of paying certain costs of demolition of blighted and nuisance properties and making grants therefore.
Great, thank you. We'll have Mr. Surratt come up and address this issue in a minute, but I want to remind the committee members that the purpose for which this money was originally bonded was for public safety purposes. And one of the issues that has come up is obviously the redirection of these funds to support the demolition program, which was another policy and priority of the county. And what we're trying to establish here are two things. Number one, to ensure that the original vision as adopted by this council to provide adequate public safety resources is met, as well as the priority of providing funding for the demolition fund. So what I have asked as it relates to public safety is for Chief Bova and his departments to come up with proposals that would provide the aggregate amount of funding necessary to support the public safety initiatives to which this bond was originally intended. And then we would be able to, in a secondary in my mind, in a secondary view, utilize the proceeds for other purposes as presented by the executive, in this case, the demolition fund. So why don't we start, I'll start with Mr. Surratt because I want to get, and before us is a list of the estimated demolition requests that's dated as of October 2nd. I want him to explain that to us.
I get to start first this time.
Yes.
Okay. Good afternoon. Ken Sarr from Department of Development. So before you and what I sent out on Friday is a list of communities within the county and their likely amounts that they'll apply for before the end of the calendar year. I will say that the Cleveland amount has already been submitted. Again, our review committee is ready to accept that as long as the funding is there. University Heights, it would be a first round application, so they haven't applied before, so that would be a brand new. But as you can see, for these communities, we estimate a total between 4.7, 4.8, and 6.8 million. Actually just got this morning an email that Cleveland Heights will likely apply for another $250,000 too. They were a first round awardee, so that could bump that range up from $5 to $7 million. This list was compiled again after talking to the community, as well as working with the land bank, who is the demolition partner for most of these on the list. So they're very aware of where they are and getting to that 80% proceed order, which is necessary for applying to the next round. If we have questions about that specifically, we do have a couple representatives from the land bank here to talk about that. So I don't know if there's any other questions about the list.
So just so we're clear, I insofar as supporting of the demolition fund is a separate issue. We obviously have a responsibility here that we need to fulfill. Once again, the original purpose of these funds were public safety related funds, unrelated to the demolition. And obviously, we can start arguing the demolition the process of demolition is a public safety issue as well. It can go into public health and go into education across a myriad of different areas. I just want to be clear that we reserve enough money to handle the original mission of public safety. So my question to you is of the money, of the numbers on this report right here, who are you ready to disperse funds to today if the money was available?
On this list, the only application that we have actually received is Cleveland's $2 million application.
Okay, because what I want to do is be able to provide the funding you need for applications that are ready to be reimbursed, ready to be funded, such as Cleveland in this case. When do you anticipate additional communities being in a position where they're ready, where you're ready to approve them for reimbursement?
If I can, could I call up Cheryl Stevens from the Land Bank, who's been tracking
Sure,
where
that'd be great.
most of these communities are with their reaching their proceed order?
What we did was to track.
If you could just state your name.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Cheryl Stevens, Cuyahoga County Land Bank.
Thank you.
What we did was to track who had submitted what, and when we say what, it is a request for us to proceed. We call them proceed orders. And so we literally have what each of the communities who we're responsible for providing their demolition activity, but we also interact in other ways with communities like Euclid and Cleveland Heights and Shaker. Shaker split their allocation between the land bank and themselves. They're doing their residential demolition and we're doing their commercial demolition. And for example, Shaker is at 75%, and we will receive another notice to proceed from them, or they'll remove a property from the list in the next week, and if they remove it from the list, they'll go up over 80%. And so they should be ready to submit. So we're tracking things like that, so we can tell you which community has submitted 0, that's Garfield Heights, and which communities are at 100%, and that's Berea, Rocky River, and Warrensville Heights.
Okay, so yes, so Rocky River's not on this list.
No, we won't get their work done, their current work done until the end of the year, and
But that
so
yeah.
they won't submit until.
But that money's already been, that money is in a separate, that money comes out of the original first money that we appropriated.
Yes, sir.
But we're talking about for these funds, so Berea is 300, but are you saying the money, the Berea project you were just referencing, is that part of phase 1, round 1?
Yes.
Okay, so I'm talking round 2.
Yes, round 2, they're ready to submit.
Okay. All right. Ms. Brown?
Out of curiosity, the Shaker split, you said 75, they're at 75%. Is that due to the 50-50 split with the Cuyahoga Land Bank?
No, it's due, we have 4 commercial properties that they requested that we demolish, and they've issued 3 notices to proceed.
Okay, and with that one, that'll take them over. Okay. All right, and of the dollars that they're receiving, so is that did they receive $1 million, or are they taking $250 towards the?
For the 4 buildings, we had approximately $400,000 set aside. I'm sorry, $500,000 set aside because one of the projects is 2 buildings on a site. The former Quay Buick site. There's also a bank building on that.
Okay.
And I don't remember what their residential request was.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Miller?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question or two for. I have
Yes,
a question or two for Mr. Surratt, if I may.
Mr. Surratt?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Surratt, am I correct that that previously we took the money that we saved from another project and allocated about $10.5 million. Is that correct?
To the councilman, we moved $14 million over from the project, and of that amount, $10 10 million went to cities, and then the 3 million for the land bank. So a total of just over 13 million of that 14 has been awarded.
Okay, so we've awarded 13, and if we did the 11 million here, that would bring us up to 24.
10. If we did 10 million, yes, that would bring us up to 24 million.
And I'm trying to get a sense for the big picture. I know that that when this was first announced as a $50 million demolition program, that it was said, well, the needs are large, and we just kind of picked out $50 million as the number that we thought we could do. And my question is whether that's still this administration's target number as to the final size of this program, and regardless of what the final size is, what does the administration see as the likely funding mechanism for the remainder of the program?
To the councilman, my understanding is that through the budgeting process, you will see us get up to the $50 million that the prior administration had committed to, and that this administration will get up to as well.
Okay, Mr. Gallagher. I'm sorry, Mr. Miller, was that it?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher.
Why don't you give us a preview of how we're going to get to that 50? You are the director, right?
I am. I have not.
You're not under secret orders not to talk to us? Well, don't laugh, because that happened with the previous administration, which you were part of, so I have to ask the question.
I am not under secret order, sir.
How are
no.
we getting there?
But I will tell you, I do not have the broad view of the budget right now. I've been told that again, assuming that we get this 10 million through various funding sources, some I believe special revenue funds, some general fund dollars, that we will get up to the $50 million.
So as far as you know, no other worthy county initiatives are going to be scavenged for that money,
Not that I know of.
because that's how we got here. Is there scavenged funds? So I'd prefer that that not happen in the future, and we will have a say at the budget time. But I find it interesting that you run this program and you don't know how we're going to get there. And how many weeks out are we from your budget presentation before this council?
I believe we're 3 weeks out.
3 weeks out, and you don't know. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So just to be clear, right now, there's only a firm request authorized by the county for $2 million.
We have an application received that we're ready to award. That is $2 million.
That's $2
from
million.
Cleveland. Correct.
Okay, because what I'd like to do is amend the resolution to award that $2 million today, and as other projects reach that award status, present a resolution, and we will continue to appropriate until such time as public safety satisfies their requirements pursuant to the vision of the priorities of the county when it approved the bond back in December. Okay, I'll make a motion to amend.
Well,
Yes,
I have a question.
yes.
So can we bring Cheryl back up real quick? I know you mentioned some cities are likely. How soon, and maybe this is for Ken also, how soon do we expect these other cities to come forward with their application for these funds? Do we expect next week? Do we expect it in 30 days, 60 days, or what?
Mr. Chairman, to the councilman, some will come in within the month, others may come in before Christmas.
Okay. So we in fact have enough time if we move forward with the chairman's motion to just appropriate the $2 million for Cleveland. We in fact have a good amount of time in between to authorize the other funding.
That's my understanding at this point in time, because no one was ready to make a formal application when we were talking about the requests that they might make.
Okay, all right. That was my only concern, was that if
Sure.
we continue with the $2 million, and then next week we get someone application and they're ready to roll with the, let's say, East Cleveland for $2 million. Then we come back at this process again, authorize another $2 million. I know that our concerns is about keeping the money that was, the $11 million that was set aside for the emergency operations centers, and making sure that we continue. I think that's a project that we, at some point, we know we will revisit. That's very important, and that we can't scavenge away money for such projects like that to use for this. But I was making sure that, you know, if projects are ready to roll, we know that they'll come in the next couple of weeks. Why not just move forward with allocating that money now? And that way it's there, and don't have to come back and do this again. But since she said within the month and before Christmas, I'm fine with moving forward with the $2 million.
Well, thank you. And also keep in mind, we're not appropriating this money anywhere else. It's just still sitting in the fund.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you know, for what it's worth, we're going to be, because we start our budget hearings. Yeah, no. We're because of our budget hearings, we're going to be meeting frequently over the next 6 weeks. So if we need to call a finance committee meeting 30 minutes before or after a committee of the whole to appropriate this, it's not an issue. And I believe, I know Mr. Kennedy's here, this could also be done through the biweekly fiscal agenda on a temporary use of reserves, then legislation come back through to transfer the appropriation if we get into a time-sensitive issue where a community needs its reimbursement quickly. So,
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Miller.
To Mr. Surratt, could you tell us a little more about the status of the East Cleveland application?
Sure. Sure. Ms. Stevens is smiling at me. So East Cleveland has submitted a lot of the paperwork. I don't want to go. I think you all remember there's a set of required paperwork to get to a proceed order, meaning basically that they have the legal authority then to demolish a house. East Cleveland is working with the land bank as a partner in submitting all of that paperwork to make sure they get to that proceed number. I think during the review, the land bank has found some missing pieces, and so they're close on a lot of those. And I think in East Cleveland's view, they've submitted, enough to hit that 80%. But I think they're working with the land bank to make sure that they get every, I dotted and T crossed with their paperwork. Is that accurate, Ms. Stevens?
And my other question is whether you're comfortable with us going forward with only $2 million, or would you feel more comfortable if we used a somewhat larger number so some additional requests could be immediately processed, and then as we got farther down the line, we could see what more we needed and when?
Councilman, I definitely would feel more comfortable with a larger number. If for no other reason, I think it actually saves you all time as well as you're going into this budget process. But again, not knowing exactly when these applications are going to come, the process to call meetings. I mean, we could do as Councilman Greenspan suggested to do the biweekly agenda item. But I think there's more that are going to come in fairly quickly before the end of the year. And again, if for no other reason than just that we don't have to slow things down to call meetings, it would help us out.
Mr. Gallagher.
It was my understanding that Cleveland was the only one that was ready for round two because they had finished their round one, and that everyone else wasn't even close to finishing round one. Are you telling me that people are getting close to finishing round one?
Councilman, as Ms. Stevens noted when she spoke earlier, we do have multiple cities that have completed, that have applied for round two, or at least are right on that, getting close to that 80% threshold. They may be a property or two away from getting to that threshold.
What happened in North Royalton? I know they had a round two request. Was that pulled?
No, that was approved and awarded through the first amount. That was $410,000.
Okay, thank you.
But just keep in mind, the list that we have before us is round two.
Correct.
So round one has already been.
They did not apply for round one. They missed round one. They applied for round two. This is round two, and I don't see them. That's why I'm saying. But we had money from round one that went to their round two request.
So to the councilman, this is slight. I can see why you're possibly confused. We had the one pot of money. We'd had round one, and then we opened up a round two for cities who had not applied through the first round. North Arlington, because they were late, were considered not applied. So they were awarded in the round two. But this round two is the round two for those who were previously awarded. And I should make sure that's clear when I speak. But these are round two for other than University Heights, which I mentioned. It would be round two for any of the cities that were previously awarded.
So this is round two due. Little levity there. Some of us got that. So, thank you.
All right, Mr. Miller.
Am I correct that the applications for round two for cities that did not participate in round one was a fairly modest amount of several hundred thousand, and that this program has already been funded?
So the round after the first round, for those who had not applied in the first round, we saw 3 applications, 2 of which were funded for $150,000 total.
Okay. Any further questions?
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Hairston.
So, Mr. Surratt, University Heights, they have not submitted the application.
That is correct.
Did they say when that will be coming?
They are ready to apply. I spoke to their community relations person just on Friday, and as soon as we haven't technically opened up the round, so as soon as we open it up, they're ready to apply.
And then at that point, you look at the paperwork to make sure they're in compliance with all the property requirements, for demo.
At that point, they may not have all the necessary documents in order.
Okay, very good. Okay, so I'll go ahead and make the motion to amend the resolution 0183 to change the amount from 11 million to 2 million, and which will fund the only project that's ready for round 2 funding, which is the city of Cleveland. Is there a second? Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
No.
Okay, so it's three to two. So the motion carries. Okay, so the resolution has been amended. I'll further make a motion that we refer resolution 0183 to full council, second reading suspension. Would that assist you in
That would,
that
thank you.
regard? For passage under second reading suspension. Is there a second? Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all in favor of recommending resolution 0183 to full council under second reading suspension signify by stating aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, that item passes. All right, thank you. And out of respect, Councilmember Brackatelli, do you wish to make a statement at this time as a visiting council member?
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Just thank you for passing this. Obviously, the importance of this to our city is critical. We submitted this second round application in mid-July, so we've been anxiously awaiting. If funds were available, we'd be on round 3 and round 4 by now. So we're anxious as we move forward to get these, and you all understand the importance of clearing the deck of these depressed properties. So thank you.
Very good, thank you. Thank you very much. Sheriff Bova, or Chief Bova. So the next item on the, it's still consistent with this resolution, but a discussion point relates to the original purpose of the $15 million, which was public safety related projects. And the chief and his staff wish to address those issues and understand the purpose here is for us to really get a grasp of what the costs, I would almost go so far as to say the certified costs for us to complete various projects as was originally intended, although now modified. So if the chief would like to proceed.
Chairman, thank you. It's Frank Bova, Chief Community and Safety Officer. I'm joined by George Taylor, Director of Public Safety and Justice Affairs, and Brandy Carney from Public Safety. We would like to discuss and go over our plan for the Emergency Coordination Center, formerly known as the EOC, and also the proposed plan has three components: the ECC, which is formerly the EOC, CECOMS, and the Emergency Vehicle Garage Area. So if we may, we have a PowerPoint we'd like to go over, and then we'll talk about the costs at the end. They got it up there.
We don't have it.
Oh, there it goes.
That we have it now.
Okay. Okay, the first thing we'd like to share is some of the operational components of each site. We have 3 sites, the Juvenile Justice Center, Courthouse Square, and the Cleveland EOC, which we have an MOU with. These sites we'll just focus on the Juvenile Justice Center. As we stand here today, some of the components that are in the Juvenile Justice Center site right now is a generator, 25 workstations, TV monitors, projection capability, secure parking, secure facility, a kitchen, and a multi-access routes to get to the facility. And clearly, if we have a hazmat emergency somewhere in the area, we can use any one of the 3 that are on the screen. Again, Cleveland EOC speaks for itself. At Courthouse Square, it would be the 3rd option. Next is the current capabilities at the ECC at the Juvenile Justice Center. And standing here today, we have 25 laptop computers, internet connection, 2 portable servers, 1 printer, 1 plotter, 2 ceiling-mounted projectors, 5 flat-screen TVs, 28 phones, 32 desks, and 60 seats to support the operations. 24/7 security provided by the county, 1 small room next to the ECC for breakout meetings, secure parking, again, public Wi-Fi, cafeteria, breakout rooms. Secure parking MOU has been established, and the generator MOU has been established with Public Works for refueling if needed. Next will be a picture of the current configuration. That is how it looks today. Our requested upgrades will be the following: raised floor to increase capacity and remove hazards of cords on the floor, metal roll-down gates to protect the windows and room from debris, depending on the emergency that we're dealing with outside, 30 dual monitor desktops and 10 laptops, 1 radio desk equipped for Cleveland, county, and state radio communications, and 1 desk equipped with global capabilities for incident mapping. And the upgraded list continues. A backup generator dedicated to the ECC will be tied to the current generator. Additional UPS backup for servers and computer in case the power goes down. We don't lose anything on the computers. Direct internet capability with dedicated Wi-Fi. Dedicated HVAC for the ECC room, and convert the sheriff break room into a joint information center by adding 3 outlets, data ports, TVs, etc. Also install access control mechanism on the ECC doors, and the IT and the HVAC systems will be tied to the generator and backup generators for this proposal. Now I'd like to bring up George Taylor just to go over the new floor plan and the external support.
Good afternoon, George Taylor, Public Safety Justice Services. As you can see from the diagram on the screen, that's how the room will be set up once we convert it over to the ECC. There are a number of desks and workstations for different agencies to use. There's ample room within that room for those individuals to move around and also to communicate with each other. There's also room for all the electronic equipment that will be needed to run this facility. That large hallway, if you go on the other side of that, where you see the Joint Information Center, will be the JOC, or I'm sorry, the JIC, which is where we will have people monitoring public or the internet. I'm at a total loss for words. Twitter and other things such as that to see what type of information is being passed out about the incident, and also give us a capability to keep people up to date on Twitter, Facebook, and other social media. And next to that, there's also a locker room which will be available, which will have lockers and other facilities for the people using that facility. The external support, the room has been accredited by the EMAP, which is an international organization, the Emergency Management Accreditation Program. We've been working on that over the last 18 months, and the assessment occurred in June of this year, and we met all 64 standards, and we're awaiting final accreditation in November. That is just a matter of going to a virtual meeting, and the members of their board will certify the fact that we passed their accreditation. We'll be the only accredited EMAP in Ohio other than Ohio EMA, and they put their stamp of approval of compliance on the JJC, Courthouse Square, and the Cleveland EOC as having the ability to be primary and alternate facilities capable of coordinating and supporting the response and recovery operations in the event of any emergency. And I'll turn this over to Brandy Carney.
Brandy Carney with Public Safety. The final slide with regard to the JJC ECC is with cost. The Department of Public Works completed the initial engineering study that was discussed earlier with the additional generator tying the HVAC in, et cetera, that Chief Boba briefed out. That cost is $652,000. The information technology costs, which include the increase in computers, the increased Wi-Fi capability, backup controller, things like that, were $148,000. And the study that was completed by the Public Works team to date is $15,000. So specifically for this project, the request is for $815,000.
Okay, if I can, so before we have multiple facets of this project that we're going to be talking about. So the ECC is one. So what's being presented is the ECC component, which is the second item on our list, is $815,000. But in addition to that, as it relates to the ECC, I've asked the chief and the directors to work on receiving a third-party verification from someone who specializes in emergency facilities to review our plans to make sure that we're not missing something, whether it be anything from a backup power line or shore power, whether it's satellite communication, whatever it might be, things we don't know about that they would have purview to, not to say anything negative about our own Department of Public Works, looking at its director, but just to make sure that they're not specialists in this. I want to make sure that as we move on from this project and appropriate funds into another area, that we've have someone certify and look at our plans to make sure we meet all the criteria. Obviously, the IMAP certification is important. This will just provide us an extra level of security that we have done our due diligence and the administration has done theirs in presenting an ECC that meets all the necessary standards. Yes, Chief.
Mr. Chairman.
Chairman, Council, as requested, we have we started discussions with the Public Safety Communications Group L&R Kimball. They're a consulting firm, and they've agreed, and we're working on the contract with them to check our plan at the ECC. So I was going to bring that up at the end, but.
And just real quick before Mr. Miller asks his question, could you brief summary on their experience and background in this area?
Sure. L.R. Kimball is a national consulting agency for public safety, regularly does public safety. I can tell you the state of Ohio hired them to do their ESINet, so their plan for 911 development and rollout. They've done EOCs. They are one of just a handful of public safety consulting firms that are, significant. So I think it's a great fit for this.
Okay, very good. Mr. Miller.
My question is just whether you're going to send over a copy of this presentation for us.
Yes, we will.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? So the ECC has been explained and outlined in what the county's next steps are in order to certify its operations.
That's correct.
Okay, so the next item?
The next item is the second component is the CECOMS relocation. And if I may, I'll explain our decision process. In picking the potential site for the CECOM relocation, we partnered with Regional Collaboration, Mr. Eddie Kraus and Carlton Laster, so I want to appreciate them, thank them for their help. The team that you see here standing here before you, along with them, visited every regional center in Cuyahoga County. We were looking to partner with another agency. However, CECOMS will completely maintain its autonomy and will not be a part of another center, only co-locate at the center. Our recommendation will be the Chagrin Valley Dispatch Center, which is in the basement of Bedford Hospital. It has been a regional center, believe it or not, since 1952. Not necessarily in that building, but their team has been together since then. It currently dispatches for 12 cities and villages. The CECOMS relocation, some of the selling points to us was the ability for CECOMS to immediately relocate. The infrastructure has triplicate redundancies in network, telephone, internet, radio, and 911. It's 24/7 support with immediate knowledge of 911 and communications dispatch technology. It also was the recipient of the APCO Technology Leadership Award, which is a big thing throughout the country. That's the Association of Public Safety Communications Officers, and that is the industry standard. So that was a selling point to us too, and also the ability to utilize the Chagrin Valley product programs and applications which are already in place. Again, I'm going to have George go over the build out. One final thing is we'll be sharing kitchen space with them, breakout conference rooms with the Chagrin Valley. They also have a mobile command vehicle if needed. That would be part of the partnership. And then we would have partnerships with the training opportunities also. And now I'd like to bring up George.
Using this facility will allow us to piggyback with what is already there. We will also be able to install individual lockers for employees. We'll build out 9 fully operational dispatch stations, and we'll also have 4 offices for supervisors and other administrative people and work that needs to be done there. Along the lines of equipment, a lot of the equipment that is currently being used will be repurposed from the current location and move to the new location of the Chagrin Valley Dispatch. There will be a need for new furniture and workstations, and we will also be able to utilize at dispatch centers some of their redundancies, such as their voice over IP and the recorders they use, or for telephone lines and for the radio dispatch. So we'll be able to tie into that, which will, in the long run, save us from having to buy all that new. And with that, I will turn it over to Brandy Carney again.
So again, to finalize on the cost for this project, the total single upfront cost for this project for the CECOMS relocation is a not to exceed amount on the bottom of your screen up there of $1,975,000. However, the wireless fund, if you remember, for the EOC project, there was $3 million that was moved over from the wireless fund. So what we did is we went back to the 911 Planning Board. They did approve to use $1.5 million or up to $1.5 million for the CECOMS relocation. That contract obviously still has to come in front of this committee, but for 1.5 for relocation, the reason why we couldn't ask for that entire amount is because the wireless fund does have certain restrictions on it. For example, you can't use it for radio costs. So that's why we would be asking today from the capital projects request for an amount of $475,000. And again, that would cover the costs that are not allowable from the wireless fund, which we would use as the difference for the relocation.
Is that the presentation on this component?
That concludes the CECOMS, correct?
Okay, any questions? So I have a couple questions. So there was discussion that that furniture there would be a need to purchase new furniture, because not all of it would move over. Is that included in the 475 or the 1.5?
The furniture would be in the 1.5.
Okay. And the 911 Planning Board, they are amenable to approving this 1.5? They haven't done so yet, have they?
They've already approved the 1.5.
They have, okay, okay. And we're certain that these are the only costs that,
We're confident in that, yes.
what, on an ongoing basis, outside of operating costs for dispatchers and that type of thing, are we paying rent or any utility costs to Chagrin Valley to co-locate?
So the request for them would be for a rent. It's significantly lower than what we're actually paying in rent now. And we will bring it to this committee for the final contract, but it is looking like our operational costs will actually be decreased and somewhat significantly decreased because, again, we're tying into their VoIP system, their internet, their fiber that they already have there, so we can have some savings there.
Okay, very good. Any further questions? Mr. Gallagher?
Rent paid to who?
The rent would be paid
To the city?
To the Chagrin Valley Dispatch.
To the dispatch?
Correct.
That entity?
That's correct.
Not the city?
Correct.
How many full-time employees are gonna be going in there?
I mean, we have,
We have a total of approximately 25 FTEs at CECOMS that would be locating.
24.
Bedford.
24 hours a day.
My point being, and we're here to save money, that's an awful lot of full-time employees overnight going into a city. The rent aspect of it, we should work on that with the city. They're gonna be far ahead anyhow. I've got it, I don't know why, but I got a problem paying rent when we weren't gonna be paying rent. Now we're paying rent, I don't wanna pay rent. And 25 full-time employees brings an awful lot of money. Enough to justify a deal with rent-free or even more of a break on rent.
we will have that
Just
discussion.
trying to save money.
Okay.
Is the presentation over?
No, we still
on
have one more.
CECOMS.
Yep.
Do you have another CECOMS related question?
No, overall.
Okay, so we've got CECOMS and ECC
Correct.
have been covered already.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Miller?
As the chairman pointed out, there's certainly economies of scale and benefits for the host facility, and the question is how many facilities were considered, and how aggressive were the various other facilities in pressing their case that they should be chosen for this?
We visited every regional center that's up and operational.
Which is how many?
What's 7, 6?
6 or 7.
6 or 7. I'll get the exact number for you. Because one at the last second we went to that was in Cuyahoga Heights that we weren't aware of, that we ended up visiting, and I believe that put it at 7. The majority of them are not able to house us for a number of employees, so they were immediately knocked out during the discussion.
And what other centers were out there that conceivably could have done it and were not immediately eliminated because of capacity constraints?
Of the centers that we visited are Cuyahoga Heights, Chagrin Valley, Southeast, Westcom, Strongsville, and Parma. The majority of them, the ultimate goal is to have the rest of the cities that are not affiliated with anyone to join these centers. And since we were a co-locator, that sort of knocked it. If we were to go into any one of these facilities, they couldn't have anybody else join their facility, which clearly will bring down their costs in the end. So the majority of them, all of them, except for Chagrin Valley. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I would say that there was some, the Strongsville Dispatch Center we did see, there was some space limitations versus a brand new build out for them. Parma is still working and finalizing their dispatch, so some of them were either timeline issues or, the immediacy issues of the move.
In the case of Chagrin Valley, do they already have everybody on board as part of their system that they reasonably might expect to get, and they kind of know what their situation is, or are there still other communities out there that might join their system?
I would say, as I'm standing here today, not to speak for them, I'm sure that there's many other cities that are still unaffiliated with any of the dispatch centers, and they may still attract some.
Okay, fine. Thank you.
Mr. Gallagher.
And Mr. Miller hit on a good point that that with us taking CECOMS and taking all the other cities that were going to go into CECOMS in the original EOC plan, it must be said and cannot be forgotten that this was a money-making machine, and that these dollars that are now being spread to the other dispatch centers are going to be money to them. What I'd like for you to produce for me and ongoing as these other centers collect other cities and other dispatches that go in for pay, what the exact number is as far as dollars that we can anticipate would have been going to the EOC. Now, the thought was 8 to 10 communities, no matter who they were going to go to EOC, which over a 30-year period would have been in the tens of millions of dollars. Not millions, tens of millions, multiple tens of millions of dollars that would have been coming to us. So again, this argument that falls flat as far as I'm concerned, that was over budget, these dollars would have paid for that facility and would have gone directly to Cuyahoga County. So that's very rarely made, but I'd like to follow the money as we go, as we have spread this good cheer throughout the dispatch community, to let them know that, you know, these dollars have been graciously provided to these regional dispatch centers by way of Cuyahoga County killing the EOC. And I'd like to follow those dollars as we go.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, Chief.
And finally, a proposal, and in a second I'll bring up Mike Dever, but if the vehicle storage center proceeds, we have been told, and this is our cost, to bring all the emergency vehicles in the county to this proposed vehicle storage center would cost us $88,900, and that's for new cement for the emergency fire vehicles to pull in and out. That would be a one-time upfront cost, and then it would accommodate the countywide emergency vehicles. Plus, we branched out 5 years, and approximately would be $16,500 a year for rent of the facility for the emergency vehicles, and that comes to $82,000. The total for the emergency garage shelter, if it comes to fruition, is $171,400. So the total for the ECC, the CECOMS, and the potential garage site is $1,461,400. This does not include the Kimball study, which we will set aside $50,000 if needed, and the Broadview Heights cost, which at this time I'd like to bring up Mr. Dever, who could explain some of that.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, are there any questions about the vehicle storage center?
Yes, I do.
Okay, Mr. Miller. And I don't know, maybe Mr. Dever could answer these as well.
My question is as to whether we have a specific site in mind at this time.
Good afternoon, council members. Michael Dever, Public Works. We are looking at a site where we currently have storage facility. It's the RTA site over in Newburgh Heights. It's a former bus garage that's been vacant now for, I think, about 16 years. We've been utilizing it the last, coming on 3 years now, as temporary storage we've consolidated a lot of our spaces and brought everything together under this one roof. So we're doing an assessment right now of this facility. It is for sale by RTA.
And where is that located?
It's in Newburgh Heights on Harvard Road. The exact address, I don't have it. It's across from Alcoa. Close next to the steel mill there also.
The cost seems relatively modest compared to the potential benefit.
Yeah, and when the property, as many of you may know, we went through a property consolidation analysis that brought us ultimately into this facility. That was phase one of property consolidation. Second phase was to bring together into a consolidated processing center. We'll be coming forward inside the next few weeks here to show you what that plan is and how we'd like to proceed to go forward now. Phase three was ultimately a consolidation of the maintenance yards, which came out of the report that was done. The three current sites that we're discussing are the sanitary facility down on Canal and Rockside Road, where our sanitary engineering offices are located. The Brook Park facility, where we house the maintenance of our vehicles. And then our final location would be the York Road Yard, which is on York and 82, where our road and bridge maintenance facilities are currently located. Primarily, the intent is to bring all of those maintenance functions under one roof. The sanitary facility, we have outgrown our space down there, and currently we are housing a number of vehicles outside. And we would, the intent is to bring all of these vehicles under one roof.
And Mr. Chairman, Director, you mentioned about the Broadview site closing costs. What's the total anticipated cost on that, and how much of that has already been expended, and has the funding for the remainder of it been provided for?
Well, the funding is ultimately coming out of these bond proceeds, the initial $14.7 million. And so those total costs we have gathered for Shook to close them down for the work they have done up to this point. And then they had initiated work on the site itself. The total cost for that was $1,122,000. At the same time, we had some additional costs with Brandstetler Carroll. They were originally hired to do the conceptual design. Those costs were $334,000. And then there was some costs that we had to pay to Broadview Heights of $295,000. And then the final site restoration to bring to restore the site out in Broadview Heights was, it's not finalized yet, but the high-end cost of that, and we've capped it out at $764,000.
So we're talking somewhere between 2 million and 2.5 million for a total. Is that an accurate figure?
Yeah, I believe that's fairly accurate. If I can do a quick adding up here. I'm a little slower. I don't have my phone with me. $2,432,000. I'm sorry. I'd say 2.5 million is the correct number. I'm sorry, I don't have that exact for you.
That's rounded up close.
Yeah.
Okay. Any further questions, Mr. Miller? No. So just to be clear, so we've got on the vehicle storage center, all right, the 88,900 is public safety's portion of the repairs and maintenance being made to in this case, a pad, concrete pad for the facility.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. There would be, obviously, we're looking at this as a maintenance facility, and currently those those emergency vehicles are stored off-site at various places throughout the county here. So that's to bring them under one roof. So as we were looking at this site for my consolidated maintenance, it made perfect sense. Currently, RTA actually has their emergency management vehicles all stored in this building now, in a portion of the building. So it's a very large and expansive building, and we feel very confident that we can make room to house these vehicles there also. And there's lockers, washrooms, and whatnot also available there.
And that 16.5 per year, that's total costs all in from utilities, additional routine repairs and maintenance.
Those are yes, those are the numbers. Once again, obviously, we have not completed this plan. You know, there's more to be done to this, but I'm trying to bring some numbers forward so that at least we can say you need to set some money aside for this if this is going to become a reality. So,
Well, and that's just it. I want to make sure as we discuss the redirection of public safety bonded value statement items, that we don't over appropriate and leave ourselves short reaching this mission. And so what you're saying is this $180,000 between the two items is all that will be needed for the facility. Is that correct?
that's correct, for emergency management.
Okay, yeah, that's what we're talking, right. As it relates to the fourth component here, so let's just recap. We got the CECOMS, the ECC, Vehicle Storage Center, and then the restoration of, and basically the conclusion of the Broadview Heights facility is roughly anticipated to be just over $4 million. 3.97 plus the 50.
Correct.
For the additional study.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, Mr. Miller.
To Chief Bova, big picture question. In your opinion, this combination of three approaches that we're talking about, and the three different potential sites that we have for emergency use as needed.
I'll explain why later.
What percentage of the capability that we would have had at Broadview Heights would this give us? Is it 75%? Is it 90%? Is it close to 100%? What do you think?
I would say operationally, within the structure itself, would be 100%. It would be exactly what we would have had in the EOC. The difference is the building, the actual structure. And plus, I think with the redundancy, with the three sites we have potentially, and we have mobile units that can go out, God forbid, if something happens to all three of those sites. So I think collaboratively we come up with a plan that I think will work no matter what situation we're involved in, emergency-wise.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? No. So at this point, they're all tied in together as far as the costs are concerned.
That's correct. We tried to capture all the costs.
When do you anticipate having the Kimball, so you've got to get them on board. When do you anticipate from a timeline standpoint?
We've already started discussion with them.
Okay.
Hopefully, with the law department's help, we'll remodify a contract that they're already part of with the emergency preparedness group. So hopefully within the next couple of weeks, they'll be in there and tell us whether we're right on track or not.
So probably looking at maybe beginning of December. We only have one meeting in December. One council meeting.
We should definitely have an answer before that, absolutely.
And have legislation presented. Okay.
As soon as we're confident, I'll come back in front of Finance and Public Safety, so.
Okay, because currently we have five regularly scheduled council meetings between now and the end of the year. So just want to make everybody aware, 2 in October, 2 in November, and 1 in December.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion? So this item we got to figure this out. This resolution's been moved on, so we'll have to have an additional resolution prepared in order to reappropriate this and future monies. Correct. Okay. All right. So we'll wait. We're basically waiting between you and Mr. Surratt, should he need additional appropriation between now and when you present.
Okay, hopefully I'll be back in front of you in a week or two.
Okay, great, very good. Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to point one item out too, though, is we tentatively put together a time frame to put the coordination center, have it up and running by April.
Okay.
Okay, so we can do some of that legwork now as we wait for the study to come back. So we'd like to proceed forward and start undertaking some of those improvements now to that space, because in strong likelihood that that is going to be the location for the coordination center.
For the ECC?
That's correct.
Okay, well,
So I'm trying to work towards, obviously, the RNC event too, and make sure
Sure.
we're up and we can exercise the place.
somewhere along the way, we'll have to get additional legislation before us to appropriate that money. Because this item has been moved out of committee. So we have one item in committee, Mr. Jones' resolution from last year. Other than that, our committee has a clean docket. So if there's a request for additional appropriation to move forward, we'll need it presented.
Understood.
All right, thank you.
Last,
Mr. Gallagher.
just overall quickly, out of the testimony from the Fire Chief Association last safety committee meeting, their concern was interoperability, which seems to be what was one of the major problems at 9/11, and they're concerned about interoperability within the county. I think we need to further discussions on the interoperability and the emergency coordination center, whatever we're calling it. Because if we have those problems out there, it's going to be impossible to coordinate if in the event of a major disaster. So out of their testimony comes a good question as to what are we going to do about that in the future. Again, that's down the road, unfortunately, but something I think we need to start discussing.
Chairman and Councilman Gallagher, we will include our fire partners and police partners, but I think the Marks radios and I think some of the sheriffs have the Harris radios. We'll work on and make sure they're interoperable.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, any miscellaneous business? Moving along the agenda. Hearing none, any other public comment?
No, Mr. Chair.
Okay, if there is none, we will stand adjourned.